Minutes look good.
Okay.
We got 72 members on it. So it seems to be a lot more interactive than our page. So it's made to, reach out and really follow people and give a hand if they need it. So anybody who hasn't joined it, it's a lot better than just using it. Page because you want them in so you give invites to different groups or education and or mentor or mentee. So that's kind of what I meant it for is you can reach out and really mentor somebody even if they're not, in the backyard at that
time. I'm spending more time in a bee suit than I am doing anything else. So hopefully someday I'll get to talk on the page or the book, whatever the difference is. I know one of them attracts you a lot more, so. So, and they're from Dover, so they came down all the way from Dover, and we got Springfield people here. Good. So we've got that introduction there. Robin, do we have any money? Because we're going to have to talk about buying stuff today.
Yes, we have it. Last month, we got the grant from the TVA for 200. So our balance up to 6,038. So we have some extra money for them. And then I'm gonna say, Mike just gave us a check for $60 because he called us storm.
Yeah, it was a little storm and I had to put a value on it. So there you go.
Okay, good. That's an expensive swarm. But I'm not going to turn down any money for the club. Okay. Well, I wanted to find out right now is how many have had a swarm trap up, and how many have caught something with it.
Yes and no.
What? How many have caught something? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people have caught something with swarm traps.
I've had 12 of them or something like that.
You have 12 up and you didn't catch anything, or what?
I caught some Antioch beads, caught some Smyrna beads. What else did I catch?
Who got the European hornets?
Yeah, we caught those.
I got one at home. That was it so far. I'm still trying.
So I haven't given up either. In fact, I just got a call last night, said one of mine got some bees in it. But Robin and I have been looking at the one down at the wildlife area, and no luck so far. But we've caught enough swarms, though. They just didn't go to the traps, So I think we got up to 5 of them from people calling me asking about swarms, So okay, and all of them from the same lady. Most of them from the same lady. She had 5 hives. She doesn't want any more. So every time I went to the cedar tree, she gave Mickey a call, and Mickey called me.
I got them last year. You had this year.
Yeah, I'm running over there all the time. But yeah, it was quite fun, actually. I was hoping she'd come to the meeting so we could teach her how not to so many swarms. But she likes it the way she is. So that's what's important. Okay. So Robin and I took a look at the Corps of Engineer dam bees, as we call them. Okay, they're we had 1 queenless, right? And and the other 2 were fine. But we want to try and get all our equipment standardized down there. So Robin, you want to talk to that issue?
I laid one of this proposal on the table.
You want to come up and get the mic?
Actually, I think we can hear her.
Okay.
I was reading that is the Cheatham County Bee Association's bees, that's our bees, it is our, education center mostly for that, it pushes out in the public. I would like to see that, I'm proposing that we get everything uniform down there. We got 2 10-frame high, 1 8-frame, medium, no deeps in the 10-frame, and there's medium frames and the deep frames. It was pretty good.
It's what we had at the time when we were.
I'm not complaining, it's what we had, because we've all been chipping in to do it. So everybody's been taking from their stuff, their supplies to do it. I propose that the club itself invest in uniform. So we will be, as a club, we would buy 2 complete 8-frame sets. 2 deeps, medium for that, bottom board, screen, everything. So there'll all be 8 frames, and there'll be 2 deeps in each one. One of the 8 frame we have is a 1 deep and a whole bunch of mediums. So we could get them uniform, and then have extra supplies also.
I second.
Well, here's, it's gonna cost some money. But, thing with this, what else, what kind, I did not take into account feeders, rubber screens, the candy board, and how much extra equipment do we want to have and where we gonna store it? That's what I've left on my number. Zook seems to have a so that would be like buying 2 of those, and then we have to add another bead in for the other one, shorter bead, and then we gotta make sure, and we don't know, we lost count on how many frames we really need to make it uniform. Like, medium's not in deep boxes, but we'd have to do another inventory.
You can figure probably about $285 a frame or something like that for deeps, and I'm guessing $170 each for the mediums. I don't know. If you had plastic foundation.
I would want everything, I would recommend everything be uniform, everything's the same.
Yeah. So I know I've got to get down there to look into something, but on my own, but
With this, and then when we get all the supplies here, then we have a day. Convert.
yeah, the bees don't care, but so that they'll have a work day down at the dam and make it a educational event for our club and for new people who haven't gotten into bees much. And so that's kind of what we wanted to use those dam bees for, was to have some place to go so we're not butting into everybody else's bees. Okay, so that was the idea. That's one thing. And we also had to think that and in that regard, we also started a committee for a mentor-mentee relationship. So think about that. We'll have to show of hands that are willing to look at that and accept the club price that we get. Show of hands. We're looking at probably $300 to $400.
Let's make it 5.
Yeah.
That way.
Why you go buy my lunch when I go get this stuff?
You got it. As long as there's beer involved.
Oh, great.
So it's 5. Let's go 5. Okay. Anybody object to us spending $500 to get that area into some kind of conformity? Okay. All right, that sounds like a yes to me.
What about, thinking about the extra equipment and stuff? What about like a fiberglass or plastic pool caddy to hold that stuff in and just leave it inside the fence?
And we have to talk to them down there, and I've thought of that. I did think of that because it's an easy thing to do, and we can get into it easily too.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to leave foundation in there because of heat, but most everything else could just be stored in it.
Yeah. Well, if it's all plastic foundation, it'd probably be all right, but you wouldn't want to leave comb or anything like that in there. Anything could have a field day on that one. Yeah. So now we have to talk to the new guy. There's a new guy down there, and so I think Robin and I are going to go see him Friday. So we're going to go down and make arrangements so we can get down there and talk to him about if there's an area we can store, and if we can get maybe something to store it in right there at the fence line. So those are just some things that still need to be ironed out. But now that we've got the money, we can make some decisions before next month and get a meeting headed in the right direction. So anything else you got, Robin? That's it? Okay. Hive grant. We got $200 from the Hive grant, and I am going to give all the credit to these ladies over here. They filled out the paperwork. They did all the government necessities, and the check arrived at my house for $200, which I thought was really nice. I gave it to Robin. She's already deposited. But you have to use it for education, equipment, or social media needs. Now, I know that these ladies have got an idea for some social media things that we could use to make this a better presentation for everybody concerned. You guys have a minute, ladies?
Yeah.
Proposals?
Proposals. Well, one of the things we could buy, because most of the stuff we're using is like hundreds of dollars, and it's just personal stuff. So we're not going to replace that. That's fine. But something we thought about was maybe a wireless mic. You're connected tonight because my wireless mic just died. So we had to use the connected one tonight. So something we could do, it's around $50 or $60 to get a decent wireless mic. So we could do that for the club, and that's affordable. And it is only useful for situations like this. So the club wouldn't have other uses for it really, unless they had you could plug it up, I believe, to a speaker system. So you could potentially use it that way. But really, it would just be useful for what you're doing so people can hear you online.
Would it be useful for an outdoor event, like if we were talking to folks at the farmer's market about bees or something like that?
With a speaker, it should be.
Okay, because I've got that speaker at home that I don't ever use. So
Yeah, I have a little one too. So I think, and I can double check that to make sure we get more than our money's worth. But there is that. The only other thought I had was potentially if instead, or I don't know, it's just all of a sudden right this moment has occurred to us because the Wi-Fi doesn't always work consistently, which means we can't always stream consistently. So like for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the meeting, you have been blurry, and Cammie and I have been over here trying to figure out what to do, and you've been freezing, you've been blurry and freezing, and now you're fine, but only because I hooked you up to my 5G on my personal phone, which is fine, it's not costing me anything, but that's the only way that I could get that to work today. Other times when we use the church, you get crystal clear, and we don't know why. We don't know if the church's Wi-Fi like got all used up before we got here, and their plans at the end. We don't know. Obviously, they use it for church stuff, which you're supposed to. But we just don't know why sometimes we get really good images and sometimes we don't. It looks like I can fix it if I just use my phone. But I thought, would a Wi-Fi boost work? I don't know. I got to brainstorm that one. So I'm kind of thinking the most affordable thing that could help with social media would be maybe a wireless mic around $50 because our website's already paid for.
cool.
That was my roundabout. You kind of got like off the top of my head because we've been sitting here going, how do we fix that?
Quick question, is it a reception, or have you checked the speed of the internet through the church here?
But sometimes it's great.
Is it? Okay.
I mean, like last meeting, we try to do a setup before we come in and test last meeting, we came in, we're like, boom, you guys crystal clear, no problems. The 2 meetings before that, you were fuzzy and blurry, and we couldn't get it fixed. But my Wi-Fi is making it work perfect.
Yeah.
So it's gotta be, and it's not an every time thing, Tyler, and I don't know why. If someone knows, tell us. Because we want to fix it and make it fine. I just don't know why sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not.
Maybe you just tell everybody to save their data and just.
I should have called the church and said, could you guys like not use too much data on those Mondays? And I don't even know that's it. I don't know, but it's weird.
That way you're.
Yes.
Well, we'll definitely be thinking about that. As for the $50-$60 for a wireless mic, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Done deal. Okay. I'm not even going to listen to that. Okay, we've got two other big speakers. Chris Banks is going to discuss mentor-mentee relationships and what we want to see the club do in that thing. And we've got Mickey up for honey extraction methods, and so he's going to talk about that. But before I yield the mic, I'm going to talk about one. Bee education is something that we all could use. Okay, I didn't even start going to bee conferences until about a few years ago. There's a lot of good information at bee conferences. And there is going to be a nice one this year right here in Middle Tennessee at MTSU on October 8th, 2021. They have got a list of speakers, 4 pages long, I think. Okay. Registration is $40 a person for the 2-day conference. If you're not a TBA member, it's easy to join online for $20 for a single 1-year membership. Tennessee Bee Association takes care of all of Tennessee. Okay, and they do a lot of they do conferences, they do educational events, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So they're our political arm to get bees up and on top and on center for the legislature and stuff like that. So that's critical, especially for if they're putting some wildflowers on for example, pole electrical line areas and stuff like that. They've been trying to get some of that stuff done for us. So as beekeepers, we only need I think we need 6 to 7 members in our club to have representation at TBA. So I'm a member. We have anybody else members of TBA, Tennessee Beekeepers Association? So we got 3, 4. If you think about joining, we could sure use a couple more in that mix, and to help us get our word out to people about bees. So, that being said, that conference, some of the speakers are going to have. Wow. If anybody watches Dirt Rooster videos, he's going to be there. Cayman Reynolds is going to be there. A whole bunch of list names here. This is all the people that are going to be there. Okay, it's 2 pages long. Okay, but some of the ones that I know, Kelly Burns, I've known those guys for a couple of years, and I don't see your name here, Tyler. David Hughes from Rockbridge Trees. If you ever want to know what the bees are they're needing in the fall weather when we don't really have any nectar, or fall we got some nectar. Okay, don't worry about it. But July and August, when you need something to bloom, he's got trees that actually will bloom at that time of year. 7 Suns trees is one of them I've got. I think I've got about 4 of them. And there's Vitex. Of course, Mike Studer sells his little Vitex plants, and that one blooms. It's starting to bloom now. So there's going to be something blooming at all times around the farm if you can do it. Okay. All right. Now I'll leave that at that, and I'm going to let Chris Banks come up here and let Nikki go last. So he can take care. He's going to tell us what they've come up with. It's only 5 pages long, or 6. Everybody get a copy of Mentee Did you have enough copies for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, you're just going to give a little quick overview of what.
We were gonna try to project it, so give us a sec to see if it's just a cord thing.
Okay, one of the issues we have over the years is getting people to get a physical mentee. You know, they like to watch YouTube or someplace like that, and a lot of the information on there is not very reliable. And of course, it's what that particular beekeeper does. And what we're trying to do is get you connected as a new beekeeper to someone who actually has some experience beekeeping. And it's not for the first time putting a hive together and putting it on YouTube. Okay, so we've got a few. How many of us are mentors in the club? We've got a few. Okay, so they're coming up with some programs and stuff like that for mentors and mentees that might help us get better relationships between those two groups and get everybody connected.
You're just gonna stand close to me. Where'd she go? Oh. So we were going to be able to put this on the overhead. I went first. So I'm Chris Banks, and this is my wife, Heather. And if you wanted the good speaker, you should have had her do this, but it's going to end up being me. So anyway, we were going to be able to put this on the overhead, but I guess we're not going to be able to. And she told me to not read it, but now I'm going to have to read it. So anyway, so what we came up with, Chris had us put this thing together, and Mickey was there, and Tanya helped, and Robin and Kason was there too. So the mentorship program, the program guidelines for the mentor program. The goal, the mentor is to assist in the search for knowledge by answering questions and to help the new beekeeper by suggesting different ideas and paths to explore. It is not the responsibility of the mentor to maintain the new beekeeper's hives. The mentor should not have to spend a great deal of time with new beekeepers. Most communication should be by telephone or email. The new beekeeper should plan to visit the mentor's apiary, where the mentor can demonstrate, explain, and answer questions about their management practices. The new beekeeper can then put into practice in their own apiary what they have learned. Demonstrations can also be conducted at the dam hives. These demonstrations should be open to all members. And the qualifications to be a mentor, education and experience. We came up with 3 years of beekeeping plus completion of University of Tennessee basic beekeeping course or equivalent, or 5 years of successful beekeeping experience plus continuing education and be a paid member. Expectations of the mentor: guide and assist new beekeepers in all aspects of beekeeping, help new beekeepers solve their own problems, contact assigned new beekeepers to discuss and agree upon preferred time and type of communication, invite new beekeepers to watch and participate when conducting hive management activities in mentor's apiary, or visit new beekeepers' apiary. Expectations for the mentee is to be a paid member, to register their apiary, follow rules of mentor's apiary, i.e. no outside hive tools, that type of thing. Attend a beginning beekeeping course. The club usually puts one on, but there's others throughout online. There's others with other bee clubs and everything. Read or watch from various sources, books, online, magazines, YouTube on beekeeping information. Have all equipment assembled, painted, and ready for package or nuke before install date. Learn what to look for during a hive inspection and make an effort to contribute to club projects. The assignment between the mentor and the mentee. The initial assignment will be made by location so that travel time is kept to a minimum. If a mentor is being assigned too many mentees, ideally no more than 3, then a mentee may be assigned to the next closest mentor. A mentee can be reassigned to a different mentor with the agreement and notification of all parties. This should not prevent a mentee from asking questions of others, and then see the communication portion of it. So the communication between mentor and mentee. The mentor and mentee will agree upon their preferred form of communications, i.e. phone, text, email, and strive to stay in contact with each other in a timely manner. Communication with the club, we have the web page. The web page will be utilized as a public forum for the purpose of announcing services, i.e. swarm removal, upcoming events, as well as recruiting new members. And then there's some things with the Facebook page. The Facebook page will be utilized as a public forum for the purpose of recruiting new members, upcoming events, beekeeping practices, postings related to beekeeping, and beekeeping discussions that will be available to current and non-members. The Facebook group page will be utilized as a private forum for paid members of the Cheatham County Beekeepers. The Facebook group page may be voluntarily joined by any currently paid member of the Cheatham County Beekeepers. Questions and discussions regarding beekeeping can be conducted in a private setting amongst members of the group. The group will be kept private in order to ensure the questions and answers are coming from known members of the Cheatham County Beekeepers. The group will be kept private to ensure that personal information, i.e. name, phone number, addresses, will not be shared on the public page. Ideally, questions regarding beekeeping will be answered by a mentor, and the club secretary will identify and approve paid members to the Facebook group. And then there's applications. There's applications to become a mentor. Some of the things they're looking for besides just the basics like name is how long have you been a member of the Cheatham County Beekeepers, how long have you been beekeeping, how many hives, describe the type of beekeeper operation, what is the extent of your beekeeping education, describe your beekeeping experience. And then there's a application for a request for a mentor. So a mentee would fill out this one and submit it to the club. Do you have bees already? How long? How many colonies do you plan to start? What type of equipment are you going to use? Are your hives registered? What are your goals? Those are the things we came up with at the initial meeting. Is there anything else I missed or any questions or anything?
Do anybody add anything?
Well, I was thinking of one thing we could do, like, we can have like a group text that most of the paid members are on, that mentees can post questions, or even mentors can post questions, or if like, somebody needs like a queen real quick, they can ask on there and see if anybody's willing to sell any. Like,
Okay. Anything else?
It's a group text.
Certainly, we gotta manage expectations for, using this technology, so we're not gonna be 100%, accurate, correct, so we're gonna learn as we go, just like beekeeping. So, it's kind of fluid now since it's relatively new. So anybody that wants to improve it, that's, what we're here for, to improve it. So nothing's set in stone because, I'm starting at the bottom like everybody else. I'm willing to give it a try, but, mistakes will be made and corrected. So just like in beekeeping.
Okay.
Most of us have made our beekeeping mistakes. Right? I'm thinking after 25 years, I made my last mistake, but I did not myself. So just to say that. Anyway, cooked bees are not smell awful, by the way. So. Let's see, just say that one nuke was extremely well packed, and then I didn't get it out into another hive quick enough. Yeah. So, in any case, our next speaker is it's June. Okay, most of us harvest our honey in June, end of June, middle of June,
don't wait too long because the bees will eat it up before August. Okay, so the dearth starts probably about mid-June and goes to about mid-August, and then things start blooming again. And that's when they'll be able to fill up for the winter, unless you're feeding them, and you can. And if you have hives that are not up to your specs, then you might need to feed them, and that's a 1-to-1 syrup at this time of year. So just remember that this time of year it gets really hot, and I don't know. I think I've had every hive out there had a brood break by now. They're just popping off, and of course I'm splitting as fast as I can, but still, I've seen a few take off on me. So they went in a direction I was kind of hoping they'd stop off at some swarm traps I had in that direction, but they didn't like what they saw, I guess. So in any case, it is what it is, and summer is the beginning, and that's of course when our dearth starts around here. So, and dearth means no nectar, no pollen. So you can feed both. I for one feed pollen substitute in a 4-inch tube for them to play in at their leisure. And so they've got pollen substitutes out there for this time later in this year, mostly July, August. And 1-to-1 syrup if you have weak hives, especially, just to keep them going. And by weak, I mean if you have a 5-frame of bees in a 8-frame hive and you want to build it up to 2 deeps for the winter, you better be thinking about giving them some nourishment in between there. So that's primarily what I want to say about that. Anybody have any questions on that particular item? Go ahead.
You just said, do you have any questions?
Go ahead.
There's a question here, but it was a membership question.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Okay, so Guy was saying that he thought his membership was paid, but he's in Maryland and he was wondering if he could pay via PayPal. He needs to mail a check.
Okay. So, does he have that address?
Do you know what I have?
P.O. Box 655, Pleasant View, Tennessee. 37146. Okay. And I'm going to save the best for last for Mickey to come up and talk about honey extracting. Because it's that time of year, time to reap the sweetness. Christmas time in the bee yard.
Christmas in the bee yard.
How many think they're going to have some honey to extract this year? Yeah. And we have not looked at some of the extractors at this point, because I remember we told you that we were thinking of buying a couple for the club. There's stainless steel ones down at Zook's. They have the stainless steel 4 frames and even a 2-frame plastic one, which I'm not too happy about because I think they're pretty chintzy, but we might consider getting a 4-frame extractor for the club use. Does anybody have anything at home that they're not using and they want to get rid of? I mean, because that, or I'll start looking on some of the advertising pages.
Can I get rid of my brother?
No sale.
All right. Lou, come back.
Christy put John Radcliffe from the National Bee Club. He does a lot of extractions. Oh. Because he called me talking to me the other day. There's a beekeeper, I think in Sumner County, that passed away that has a lot of equipment that they're looking at getting rid of. I know a couple of extractors and stuff.
Oh, really?
But I wasn't interested in it, but I can put you in contact with him if you want to touch bases with
Sure.
him. And
Absolutely.
he can probably give you a rundown. He was supposed to send me a list of it and pictures, but he never did.
That stuff will go fast.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a rough outline that I'll go through 3 phases. There'll be a discussion on extractors, bottling methods, and labeling. And anytime anybody has a question, just bark out, and we'll get Tyler to answer it.
I'll tell you what not to do.
So basically, we're talking about extractors. There's a manual crank, like the old ice cream maker extractor, and then the motorized. The 2 types of extractors inside those parameters are tangential and radial. One being it extracts only on one side of the frames and foundation, and then the radial actually extracts end to end, so it spins out much better. The best combination, obviously, is motorized and radial. If you're shopping, sizes of extractors can be from 2 frames up to 30 to 80 frames. There's some monsters out there. I saw an 88 frame yesterday in a book for $7,000.
When you get delivered.
Yeah, Whew, that's a piece of equipment. I personally have a 9-frame motorized Italian job, and oh man, it's sweet. Push button operation, and it wasn't that expensive when I bought it from Brushy Mountain a few years ago, but I saw it went up $400 or $500. So, but it's stainless steel. Get a good one, and it'll last you forever. Any questions about extractors? The bottling methods are just like extractors. There's all kinds out there. One of our dear friends, Kendall, used to use the crush and strain method. And there's another one. But I've not done that. It seems like it'd be a pretty messy operation. Maybe not. But well, ideally, the honey operates best at 100 degrees anyway, even if you're using an extractor. But the basics are if you do have an extractor, and I think you should, if you're going to have, you should have access to one anyway, if you're going to handle honey. But the best method by far is to extract from the tub into a bucket. And I use the honey gates on all my buckets. You can buy those inexpensively, and then get food grade buckets. I got some of these buckets at Robert Orr several years ago, and they're pretty nice. That little green label, by the way, is for sugar water. If you want a quick and easy, very accurate, fill that up to that mark, 3 gallons with hot tap water, dump a 25-pound bag of sugar in there. It's exactly 1-to-1. Mix it with a paint sprayer on a drill, or paint mixer on a drill. You're done. I love that thing. No measuring. But once you get set up from the extractor into the tub, there's any number of filtering methods. I like the 600 micron. It'll catch a leg and a wing, but it doesn't hold the honey back. It's a coarse filter, if filter's the right word. It's basically a strainer. When you can read through it, it's not a filter. But that's what I like, because I like to see the pollen in my honey. But whatever you use, it's entirely personal and up to you. But I like to use these buckets under the extractor. They can be moved right to the table and start bottling while you're filling another one. Because you do not want honey in bulk to sit around in humid weather. I think everybody's heard the word hygroscopic when it comes to honey. That means that it will, if you put an ice cube out on the table outside right now, what happens? It starts to melt. It's going to equalize with the hot air outside quickly. That's what honey does with humidity. Honey is very low in moisture, around 17%. But if it's 88% humidity outside, there's going to be some transfers. The more moisture that goes into that honey, the more likely it is that it's going to ferment and go bad on you. So you don't want buckets of honey sitting around on your carport waiting for Sunday to bottle it. It's a little precarious. So keep that in mind. Honey in glass with a good sealed lid as quick as possible. If you're selling your honey, it's been proven that glass jars outsell the plastic big time, and I agree with that. Common jar sizes are 1 pound, 2 pound. This is exactly a 2 pound, and that is my best seller. If I do 300 jars of honey, 250 of them are going to be in that one right there. To the camera. It's a 2 pound, front and back labels, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. You want to pass them around?
We're keeping an eye on it as it goes around.
Who brought
Who
brought the spoon, right? That's fall honey. That is goldenrod honey, and it is very distinctive. More ways than one, right? Remember when you buy your jars, and I don't know how people buy jars. I've only bought jars 2 ways. I bought them freight from Pennsylvania, and recently I'm going to Spring Hill and getting them myself from a dealer. And I'm getting the Queen Line glass jars and lids at a really good price. If anybody wants that information, I've got it. Of course, there's no freight, because freight is awful on glass. Plus, you could lose a little of it. Remember, caps are always sold separately. If you buy jars, you have to order caps separately. There's also a lot of boutique containers out there. I have a good friend that uses nothing but hex jars. And he gifts everything he bottles away. So he wants something fancy. Again, if you sell the honey, you got to stick with the weight program. In Tennessee, you have to sell by weight, by pound. So keep that in mind when you buy containers for sale, and you have to label as such. We'll talk about that. Bottling temperatures. We talked about 100 degrees being ideal if you're wanting honey to flow properly from this unit to your jars and so on. But the raw honey maximum temperature should not exceed 120 degrees. And really good reasons for that. Basically, you don't want to lose the benefits of the honey with the enzymes and proteins and so on in there that will suffer from higher temperatures. Pasteurizing honey, which is what you get in grocery stores, is so common in the United States. And that stuff is basically cooked at about 160 degrees. And you can imagine how beneficial it is for your allergies and all that stuff if they've cooked it like that. But there's reasons why they do that, and it has to do with liabilities. Any questions about, we're moving pretty quick, but any bottling questions?
Wait, what's the first thing you did? I need to jog my memory out of question.
What did you say, Casey?
The first thing you did,
Extract.
oh yeah, extracting. Is it possible to make your own extractor?
Not me. I guess if I had an old washing machine, I could try it or something, but I wouldn't want to try, I've been around the crank types, and well, that'll wear you out.
Well, I've never.
And makes a long day too, don't it?
Don't know how possible it is to make one.
Well, it's possible. It's possible. All you have to do is spin them pretty quickly, But there's a balance thing too. If you don't build it balanced, it'll walk all over the room.
Okay.
Ask me how I know.
Mickey, where did you get the spigot thing that you put? Yeah, where did you?
It's called a honey gate, and every bee supply catalog has them in one fashion or another. These are fiber of some sort, They're not plastic. I mean, they're tough. I will say this: I bought a bag of these for $2 and something a piece. I got plenty of them, but if you notice this large gasket here, I went to AutoZone and I bought a sheet of gasket material and I made my own gaskets. And I highly recommend it because with a curved bucket, it's going to be hard to seal up without a good thick gasket.
Yeah, I'll give you a square bucket.
Yeah.
You know, they've got some of those buckets that have like a water spigot.
You'll pass that around?
Too small of a spigot.
Probably. I mean, sometimes this is too big, isn't it? If you're doing a 1 pound jar, sometimes this is too big. You got to be real careful or you're going to have it in your lap. But I like these okay. There's some a whole lot better quality that you'll spend $10 or $15 a piece for. I've never had one. I'm happy with those. And I've never had to replace one because it went bad either. So there's that. We didn't talk about, in extracting, we didn't talk about the ways to get the honey comb, the cappings off, but I use a cold knife. It's a knife that is, the handle is angled so it fits the frames and just shaves the caps off of the honey frames. Christine's got a pretty good looking scratcher that is a different design from what I've seen before. If you want to pass that around,
Call it
that
Turkish.
that pulls the caps off where the old scratcher just tore them.
It's a Turkish scratcher.
So yeah, that's another method besides a knife. You can also invest a couple of $100s in a heated knife. You know, I've never had a plug-in knife before, but
What you could do, you can get one of those giant foam katanas that they cut the like the ceiling stuff or like the wall stuff, like the ceiling stuff, like the spray foam or the expanding foam.
yeah. Well, whatever you use, you have to use it quickly because when you start cutting, it starts running. So you gotta have something that'll go right through it, turn it over and do the other side, and get that dude in a bucket. Before we go to labeling, I brought a couple of gadgets. If you want to hold that this skateboard up, if you've never seen one of these, you might want to put your paws on it because this is one of the smartest little gadgets ever come up with. And I built 2 of these about 5 years ago. And let me tell you, it works except for one thing. If you've got any brood at all in your honey super, you cannot get the bees out. But if you've got a honey super with nothing but honey in it, put a skateboard under it, and I've got it marked this side up and so on. Put a skateboard under it. The day before you want to take that honey box off, go the next day, take the honey box off, and I'll promise you, if there's no brood in there, the bees will have left that at night and cannot get back in the next day. Nice gadget. And what's that?
Make some of those little ones that fit in the inner cover of the hive too. You seen those?
That's one way. Well, that's a one way, like the bees will come down from the super and go that and go in the
Well,
chamber.
yeah, well they go through the hole. She's showing you the bottom. They go through the hole, which is easy for them to get out. And then they just keep marching out the ends. They don't know to go to the ends to go back in. They go to the middle. So they will eventually in 2 or 3 days, if you leave it on there, they'll figure out how to get back up there. But the next day you're going to have a box of honey with virtually no bees in it, unless there's brood in it. If there's brood in it, you better get it out, which that's what I'm going to do next week. Going through all my supers and putting nothing but honey boxes together. Mark them with a piece of tape, and then we'll start doing that.
Yeah, that's the problem with our wax container. We have like a bunch of dead bees inside of it and we can't get them out.
Another quick option to, we'll talk about another quick option of getting the bees out, clearing the bees, is the fume board. And we've got a little spray bottle of, that one might be Honeybee Gone. But when I built this thing, I thought, how in the world is that thing going to work? But it depends on two things, black and sun. You put that thing in the sun and let it heat up, and then lightly spray the felt and immediately put it on top of the super you want to clear. And in 5 minutes, they're going to be in 3 supers down. There's just something they don't like about that. And it's not a really terrible odor. Some of them are, but not this one. I built this one just out of curiosity, and I use it all the time. Use it all the time.
What's your spray called again?
That one is Honeybee Gone.
Honeybee Gone.
And that's all I've used in maybe 5 years of that thing. But so it works well. Just spray that on the felt and use the sun to turn it into vapor. It's a
Turkish scratcher.
cap remover from the
Scratches the wax.
honeycomb caps come off when you pull it across them. How many people use 9 frames of honey in a 10 frame box? Or seven in an 8? Why in the world would you do that? It looks like if you had 10 frames of honey in there, you'd have more honey than you would at 9 frames of honey. It don't work that way. This is a guide to be sure your 9 frames of honey in a 10 frame box are even. They're not squished together even. They're separated. 5/8 of an inch, I think, between the wood right here. But anyway, what it allows the bees to do when they say this is the frame, instead of drawing that comb out and having to stop because the other frame, the 10 frame is so close to it, they stop at a certain point. Sometimes so soon that you can't get a knife in there evenly to cut it off. It's indented. You put 9 frames in there, how many of these will be fat? 9 of them. 9 of them will be fat. You'll get more pounds of honey out of a 9 frame box than you will a 10 frame box. Weird as that sounds. Plus, you don't have to buy the frame.
Just have to melt a lot of cappings.
Right. Big cappings.
Big cappings.
Yeah, because you're going to cut some.
Frames that's already drawn out that you do, and you don't put it in there with just foundation. You just put it in there with foundation.
Yeah.
Foundation.
Plastic foundation. But
Keep an eye on it, because sometimes when you're doing that, they'll draw, and if there's too much space, you've got 2 undrawn frames, that space in there, sometimes they'll try to draw the comb 90 degrees. Instead of drawing it out, sometimes they'll draw it parallel to the frame. So just keep an eye on it.
it's real important to use some kind of guide, though.
Yeah.
Even I've done this. I've even used the guide and put that box up there this high and thought, I need to check that. Go up there and I have 2 or 3 of them like this because the way I put it up there. You don't want to do that. Because if you have 2 of them done that way, there's already another inch of space up there. There's going to be something happening you don't like down there. But these things, what, $3 or $4? Way worth the money. Okay, labels real quick. Depending on what catalog you shop for bee supplies, they're all different in the labels department. And I've tried a bunch of them. I don't really like this one. That's the one I have on that one. I don't really like this label. I think it's a Man Lake. But there was a really good one at Kelly's, and it's no longer available. But that's part of merging. The things you have to know about labels mainly deal with resale. If you have honey for sale, there's some things you have to do with labeling. You have to give the information required by law having to do with weight. There needs to be contact information. There should be some sort of either a code or a date or both. And by code, I mean a lot number. I use the date as the lot number because that's the only thing I did that day was that batch of honey. So that date is the lot number in my world. But the information you have to give if you're selling the honey, even hand to hand, which is the way most hobby beekeepers sell their honey, is give me 2 jars of honey, is to put that information on it. And I do that, as you saw my label, it's a hybrid label. I buy the main labels, and then the Avery label that we make is pre-printed as 1 pound, 2 pound, or 3 pound jar. And then all I do is write the date on it. I write a sheet of dates, and then when we package it, bottle them up, then we put these labels on the product at the time we bottle them. I don't think I've ever bottled honey and not labeled them completely. Some people do, box them up and then label them as they want to sell them, but I don't do that. But again, any number of ways to label honey. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Is there any minimum sale requirement? In other words, if you sell less than so many pounds or something, you're exempt from the label, or if it's a 2 pound bottle, it has to have a label on it.
They all have to be labeled
Yeah.
for sale.
Yeah.
If you're selling anything, it has to be labeled.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people try to, in our general hobby category, try to stay away from putting products in stores, because then you get into UPC labels and expiration dates and things other than package dates and 1 pound jar. So you got to be careful with some things. It gets very complicated.
Did your back label come with your front labels, or did you order them
separately? It's ordered separately. There's 2 different rolls, and there's different ways you can buy these nutrition labels too. You can actually get one for a 1 pound or 2 pound jars on. That's just a generic label for a per serving. So that's the one I always use. And I don't always put those on there because most hand-to-hand sales, they don't care about that. But it's a big thing these days. You know, all the restaurants and so on are using it, have to use it.
But am I wrong? That's not required though. Correct?
It's not required in Tennessee.
Right.
A lot of states do. In fact, USDA recommends it. Okay. Is what I saw in the last, I think it was in the Better Bee catalog. There was a little paragraph in there from USDA. Let's see, anything else on labeling? I don't think so. My wife is pretty big on liability insurance. I'm not. I don't, I'm not that carefree, but I don't think about that kind of stuff. But there is always the chance that somebody's going to get sick on a turkey wing and think it's your honey or whatever. So there is some very inexpensive liability insurance coverages out there for a couple of $100 a year to cover a little hobby operation like this. Check it out. Let's see. Shelter insurance does ours, and it's, like I said, $100 or $200 a year. So, anything else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you back here because of air conditioning. So that's what we said about the insurance.
The liability insurance, if you sell a lot of honey, and I've never been accused of selling a lot of honey, but it only takes one person to cause a problem. And so I have a little liability insurance policy that would cover somebody coming after me if they said my honey made them sick, or they found a grasshopper in it or whatever,
So is that a spatial agent, or do you just
Well,
do your regular insurance?
I have business insurance with them on other stuff, with some other business. So I found a writer for this stuff That was like $160 a year, something like that. And it's, it's not going to be millions of dollars or anything like that, but it's better than nothing. That's the way I look at it. Better than nothing. Yes, sir.
I had a question. Once you bottle your honey and you label it, how do you store it until you sell it?
Boy, that's a good question. I'll tell you how not to. Don't put it in extreme temperatures. Honey should be kept sealed. And to me, if you seal this bad boy up, it's going to be half sealed. There's some 5-gallon buckets that'll seal. They've got the rubber ring and all that stuff. But be sure you seal it. And the best way is in glass with a good lid, a matching lid. The temperature is the big thing. Keep it out of direct sunlight, which is going to ruin your temperature program. Keep it out of sunlight and keep the air temperature between 50 and 70. And that's pretty important. I know most homes are set at 74, 76 or whatever, and that's usually not a problem for a little while. But if you have a case of honey sitting on the floor in a house at 75 degrees, it's going to start sugaring up from the bottom up. It's a natural thing. But I have a split level house, and I'm at about 8 degrees cooler downstairs than upstairs, and it's right in that 60 to 70 degree range, and that's where my honey stays, 60 to 70. And unless I've had a problem with moisture content or extracting something that wasn't ripe, I've never had a problem with it just massively going to sugar. And I had 360 pounds of honey down there last year and the year before, and it held until I sold it all. Do you think?
I don't know how much to sell your honey for.
I've only had one price since I started, and that's $10 a pound. And I'll tell you a story about that, then I'll quit. Had this guy, I have a little business at home and have people come and go all the time. And this guy said, "Hey, how about your honey? I want to buy some honey." I said, "Let me go get a jar." So when I walked back out, I was holding it out like this, and he was holding his hand out to get it. And he said, "How much is it?" And I said, $20, and he took his hand back. I said, "That's okay. I don't care whether you buy it or not. I got $50 in it." And he bought it. But it didn't take long to explain to him why I got $50 in it. I said, "You see all that stuff stacked up in there? That costs some money to do this." But $10 a pound is a bargain. Some people get 8, some people get 15. It's all over the board. I don't know of anybody that just gives away all their honey anymore. It's too expensive because people want to buy honey. It's good for you. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Kind of tying into all this, and somebody talked about the internet and everything. I get a lot of calls from people looking for bees and queens and honey and things of that nature. And I hate to interject this because it doesn't quite go along with what you're talking about, but it just made me think of it. Is there something that we can add to our website to put like your honey on there? Mickey has honey for sale, or Chris has nooks and queens for sale, or whatever. Is there something that we can put on a page that when I get a lot of calls, I'm constantly trying to scramble to find somebody to refer them to, so that it's kind of a point where
same
they get calls.
Same here, exactly. Yeah. But it's kind of fluid though.
It is
See,
fluid,
where I am today is I don't have honey today, but I will next Monday.
Right.
I don't have queens. I don't have queens today, but I might next Monday.
Right. Right. Is that something that we can put? Whoever does the website, is that? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where to point. Is that something that they could call and say, "Hey, can you put on there? I'm going to have queens or honey available from this date to this date," or it's something that it can be easily put on and taken off.
It's one of the things we were going to talk about when we were going to kind of propose some changes to the website. And one of the things we've seen other bee community groups do is have a page that says something like club businesses. And so if you raise queens or you raise whatever, there's like a little free ad for you with your phone number and what you do. And
Right.
we
Is
could
there
take
something
it
that
on
can be
and off.
more, I guess, current? Because like Mickey may have 200 pounds of honey, but it may be gone in 3 weeks or whatever. Is that something that he could call and say, hey, I've got honey available, and then he could call back and say, hey, can you pull it off?
Oh,
I mean, is that something that would be too labor intensive or?
I don't think so.
Can you add to it? Like you can just add sold out instead
Oh,
of,
sure.
instead of deleting it?
I think so. The answer to your question is I don't see why not, and I believe we could, and I see what you're saying about not wanting it to be a permanent fixture. Let us try, and we're more than willing to put it up. And the person, we work with somebody who's always run the website for the club, and he's really great with everything. So I think if we explain to him that's how we want it to be, we want to be able to delete this or put sold or something when it's gone, I think he would help us set it up that way.
Yeah.
What if we had a separate section or a block, a swap shop or something, you know, and that's updated weekly,
Certainly,
you know?
the problem becomes only that the people who have things in it tell us to update it. You know, I mean, we don't.
Right.
I mean, we would have to have if you have queens for sale and you don't have them anymore, we wouldn't know you don't have them anymore. So somebody would have to like shoot us a message and say, hey, I'm out of queens, can you take it off? Or if you wanted it that way.
Right.
Is that too labor intensive? I don't know.
Yeah.
You can try.
Yeah.
Or maybe we could just have like a list of people who sell the queens, people who sell honey, and just phone numbers. And anybody interested, they can call that person, and then they can just say, you know, I don't have it this month, you know, and then just work it out between. That way it's not always changing.
Yeah, I can see it being a real handy tool if it's all that information's in one place.
Right.
It was one, like I said, was one of the things we think should happen too, and I kind of like that idea, because it would be possible, even if you just put a phone number and text only, you know, if somebody was texting you queens or honey, you could just text back really quickly and say, don't have them, you know, and that wouldn't be a huge drain, I don't think, on your time. We're open to suggestions on how to do it.
If anybody needs the contact for the honey jar guy in Spring Hill, let me know. Thank you.
Well, that just leads right into you, Heather. So if you guys want to come up and do the social media aspects that we want to think about and the survey results and.
I can't project it. We can't get the projector to work, so I can talk.
All right, tough.
All right, I'm gonna walk back so I can watch
do.
the thing. Okay, we'll just do it from here. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna do this in front of you. And I have to look at it though, or I won't remember. Oh, jeez, we have hats and shirts. So thank you again it seems like we talked a lot this meeting, and normally if you're new, we don't talk this much, but we wanted to present this for you on the screen, and we're having some issues. So I just need to get with you, Carolyn, later, and we'll find out about what we need to do so we can project things for you. But just to briefly tell you what we did, and many of you know because you were very kind and you responded, but we sent out a survey. We sent out to 99 people. There are actually 119 people on our email list. And some people, we think that some people have been on there for years and they probably don't get it anymore. They may not have that email anymore. We're not really sure. So if you're brand new and you didn't get the survey, or for any reason you didn't get it, we brought paper copies. So, would you mind? Cammie will hand you one, only if you want. There's no pressure. But if you're thinking, I didn't get one, give me one. We got one for you here if you're a paper kind of person. So the goal of this survey was just 3 questions. And we wanted to know what your interests are, why you're in the club, and what more you want to get out of the club. And we got great results and feedback from people. So basically, our first question was, why do you belong? So that we got an idea of why you're here and what you want to get out of the club. The top 6 answers were, number 1, you just want to be informed about beekeeping practices. That's why you come, and that's what Mickey, did. That's why you come. You wanted to know about events, what's coming up, what can you attend, what's local, what might you have to travel to. You want to socialize. You want to go to barbecues or field days or opportunities to talk to other beekeepers who have your interests in common. And we all know the Christmas party. Those are opportunities for you to talk with other people and pick their brains or just, not even talk bee stuff. You wanted to take classes, and COVID just, shot that down. So normally in January, there's a beginning beekeepers class, and new people can take that. And many people here have taken it, and members that are experienced members put it on, and it's a great way to learn. But we just didn't have that this year. But that is definitely one of the reasons that you are here. Access to tutorials. You want to know how to do stuff. You want to know how to harvest honey. And so that's what Mickey did tonight. There were other things like make a bee quilt, prep for winter, make a swarm trap, things like that. And the last thing was ask questions from people who know about beekeeping. So there are very experienced people here, and you want to be able to ask them questions and get your answers. So those were why you belong. And the second question was, what are your interests? So that Chris and other people can tailor this to you. Treatment was really high up. How do you treat hive beetles? How do you treat for mites, varroa, things like that? So that was huge. People wanted support there. How do you split a hive? That was really big because we all have that issue. How to harvest honey? Again, you hit that tonight. Pollinator plants. That was something else people asked about. And then another one was big, and I understand why, and that was advanced beekeeping classes. And so that is something we've talked about. The inspector classes, they just haven't been able to have yet. And even just beyond beginning beekeeping. So Cammie and I have tried to keep an eye out, and we will. I didn't know you had that on me. I'll face that way too. Cammie and I will keep our eye out, and please feel free to forward to us if you come across good sources, but opportunities to take more classes online. Since COVID, they've been offering a lot more. So if you're one of those people who want more education, we're trying to put that out on Facebook, and we also try to email, but we try not to spam you with email too. There was a few other additional things, like you want to learn how to raise queens. You want to learn about the local regulations. There was candle making, beeswax candles, things like that, sugar boards. And then the last question we asked in the survey was, would you be willing to do any volunteering for us in the group? And we got some great responses from people. And some of the questions we asked, would you be willing to mentor with one of our officers? So that still stands. And if at some point you're thinking, I'd help with, secretary or vice president or something, please know you are more than welcome. And each of the officers would be wholeheartedly welcome you to talk to you about what they do and how much time it takes, and if it's something you really want to do. Lots of people said they would respond to swarm calls, and that's really a big one. So thank you. Some people said they would mentor a new member, and you guys discussed how they can do that. We also need people to work at community events. We used to have a fair before COVID. And so that was a big one, but also other events. And many people stepped up and said that they would be willing to do maybe like a shift or show up for a couple hours and talk to the community, teach classes, be on a planning committee, or present. Christy and Mike presented last month, and it was fabulous. So if you are in the club, you do not have to be, right, Chris? You do not have to be an advanced beekeeper to present something to the club. And if you just... That's right. He's not here to congratulate. But if you're kind of like, this is a topic that interests me and I'd love to share it, even if it's your personal experience, which is what you guys did, please know you're welcome and encouraged to share and talk. So those were our main things that we got from the survey. Cammie and I wanted to tell you, and you sort of launched into this with your question about the classifieds. We're working on the website. There is a person, Kevin Eggers, did I say that right? Who initially was with the club, and he is a website guru person. And he continues to run it. And Cammie and I have been working with him to try to bring it up to some different things we want. Some of the things we want to do is you requested more how-tos or tutorials. So how can we take, Mickey's information or our experienced club members' information or how to build swarm traps and get that into the website so that when you want to refer to it later, you're like, oh yeah, here it is. And everybody doesn't have to reinvent the wheel all the time, and it's available to you all year. We also just want to refresh the website, get past meeting minutes on there, some of the videos, your photos. We've been getting photos of everybody. The community projects. We have the community project at the dam, at Cheatham Dam, and the Swarm Trap project updates, and place for new members to sign up. So that if you're new and you have never been to our club, you go, oh yeah, right now it does say that it's here at the church, which we so appreciate. And, it gives the time and date. But what if you just want to fill it out and send in your $10? Or, maybe you left your first meeting and you're ready to do that. So these are the things we would like to do. Based on your feedback, we think this is what you want. So if you don't, please jump in if we're on the wrong track. But that is our goal to try to do. Plus, right now we're just posting to Facebook. We know Facebook's not everybody's thing, and we get it. But it's the only real place we have for social media, because Twitter's just, there is a Cheatham County Beekeeper Association Twitter page that was started like in 2010. I have no idea what the password is. I don't know who started it. It has like one post, but we're just kind of focusing on Facebook because it seems like we'll get over 100 people view a post. So somebody's, we have over 400 people subscribe to the page. People look at it, and at least you can get some info. But if you really like another form of social media, tell us so we can do that for you. We're open to that. And I hogged all the talking, but this is Cammie, my co-worker. So when you get those little social media co-coordinators, I'm Heather, this is Cammie. And so we just send those out. And sometimes it's from Cammie, sometimes it's from me. You just never know. It's a crapshoot. But please feel free to respond to those emails at any time, and just say, oh, Heather, Cammie, what do you mean? Or we have a suggestion. We're totally open to that. We just took this on to help. The officers have a lot to do, and we want to help make things as good as they can be. So let us know how we can do that.
We're so grateful for your help. We really, really appreciate it.
Anything to get it? Well, I, for one, am certainly happy they're here.
We'll get this working so you guys can see.
You can set that up again. I've got two other things I want to mention because they brought it to my attention and I forgot to write it on my agenda items. Was while we're doing the damn bees this Friday, it might occur to us maybe we want a picnic also this summer. Does anybody want a picnic this summer? Yeah. Can we pick a month? Maybe August or July, or we're going to look at the dates and see how we're doing. We could probably combine one of our bee dam inspections, what we would give to maybe some mentees when we go down there, and we can combine that and then go over to one of the pavilions and have some lunch and some time for conversation and actually talking people face to face, But we'll look at the available dates here, and I'm thinking July or August sometime. And one other thing I wrote down was Mike Studer was over at my house inspecting some bees the other day. He's our state inspector. He's the only state inspector we have. Okay. So every time I see him, I beg him to get us in an inspector class. And he has promised me he'll put us on the first inspector class he's got. And it'll be Monday evenings and Tuesday evenings. It's 2 evenings back to back. So it might be one of our meeting days with the class, and then the Tuesday following. So be aware of that. So hopefully he'll get to us and we'll have an opportunity to learn what inspectors look at, which if you've ever been inspected, it's not much, but it's still a lot more than maybe you're aware of. They could take a glance at a frame and know that it's okay, that there's not this. And this guy's pretty good. He can get out of his car and tell you whether you've got American foul brood. So that's pretty good. That's the first thing out of his mouth when he always comes to my place. Well, I don't smell any American foul brood.
He does. Checks the wind.
Yeah, checks in. So Mickey's inspected. Tyler's are you inspected yet?
Not this year.
Oh, okay. You're just too busy.
He was
Yeah.
talking to you after me, and he said you were in Boston.
He called me, and I was out of town at work.
Yeah. So anyway, got two of us that are inspected. I'm selling queens and nukes right now, and got my first good graft coming out here in a couple of days, and we'll get those into some hives and get them ready for sale as well. So, oh, whatever I can get right now.
Did somebody call you today for one?
I got a call for a Father's Day gift
Yeah.
hive. Yeah. So I told him I could put it together for him. So I'll figure out how much that's going to be. I'm new at this too, so we're working on the pricing. So, but I'll pass it on to the social media people when I get some kind of.
Get into it. He's trying to catch a swarm this year. I told him that you might have to pony up some money, and if he's going to get in this year, I'll say yes. And he so I thought about
I think that's the same guy. His wife called and said that he had some swarm traps out there trying to catch them.
It might be.
And she's one, so don't tell him that.
Yeah, don't tell him. It's a surprise. And we're on YouTube. But in any case, I'm not going to go through winter with 56 hives, so I can spin them and combine them and do a few other things to get somebody a hive or a queen or whatever it needs. So I'm not too worried about that. 615-403-7407.
I've got an uncle looking for a queen and a dove.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not going through winter with 56 hives, so we can work something out. Yeah, Trey. Damn bees are going to be like it's Mickey. I mean, Robin and I are going to be there at 7, so we want to do it while it's cool. So if you show up at 8, there's probably going to still be some work to be done, But we're going to start at 7 because we're also weeding the garden there. And the mulch is showing up that day. So if anybody wants to mulch the garden, it's a pollinator garden, which is what this is all about. The reason I'm wearing the shirt today is it's milkweed season. The milkweed's starting to bloom. So the bees like the milkweed. The butterflies like the milkweed. Plant it and it'll come. And it'll keep coming and coming and coming. Because it sends out runners everywhere. But still beautiful. Other than that, that's all I've got for today, folks. Thank you for your attendance. And
Can I take a picture?
A picture?
Yeah. I took a picture last time, but nobody looked. Can you wave? Yay, thank you. Oh wait, we still running. Okay, wait, ready? 1, 2, 3. Very nice. Thank you. Y'all look great.